What is up, guys? Delboy here. I wanted to talk about a subject that I've heard a lot of people debate in recent weeks and even recent months, and that is that Dillian Whyte has been hung out to dry and left out in the cold by Eddie Hearn, and also that he deserves a title shot, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Listen, I have a problem with this kind of argument because ultimately, let's just be honest about it. Has Dillian Whyte fought better competition than a lot of guys who have fought for titles at heavyweight in recent years? Yes, he has. But at the same time, I mean, this guy has turned down 2 world title eliminators. He turned down an IBF final eliminator against Kubrat Pulev, and also he turned down a WBC eliminator with Luis Ortiz. So Dillian Whyte had a route to both Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, but he declined both. And let's briefly talk about the IBF final eliminator against Pulev. If he beat Pulev under the new rules within the IBF, Dillian Whyte would have been entitled to 35% of the total purse against Anthony Joshua. Now, he turned down $5 million against Joshua as a voluntary. If Dillian beat Pulev and was a mandatory, he would have been entitled to a lot more than the £5 million he was offered. In fact, let's take an example. So, Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker, I believe it generated £29 million. And that left quite a big purse for both fighters. Now, if Dillian Whyte and Joshua generated a significant amount, Dillian would have got a lot more than the $5 million he was offered because of the 35% split. He would have gotten a lot more if he beat Pulev and became mandatory. But Dillian Whyte saw Kubrat Pulev as too high a risk. He saw what Pulev did to Chisora. Pulev handled Chisora a lot easier than Dillian Whyte did, and it's a hard fight. So Dillian said, do you know what, it's not worth a risk, it's not worth losing my market value over, so I'm not going to take the fight. He ducked Pulev, and as a result, he got the shitty end of a stick against Joshua in the negotiations because he was only a voluntary. And as for people saying, oh, Joshua should have said in the rematch clause that if Dillian Whyte were to win, Dillian Whyte would get a bigger purse in the rematch. Well, that's not always how it works. Take Floyd Mayweather, for example. I mean, Mayweather had a lot of rematch clauses in contracts, and honestly, do you believe that in these clauses he said, if I lost, my opponent would get more than me in the rematch? Do you really believe that? No. Floyd would have earned more in the rematch as well, because he earned that right, he had that bargaining power. And, you know, Joshua has that over Dillian Whyte. Joshua is a much bigger draw than Dillian Whyte. We may not think it's fair. You know, in an ideal world, the winner should get more in the rematch, but that's not always how it works. This is the real world. Money talks, bullshit walks. And for Dillian Whyte to turn down the second fight with Anthony Joshua, just because if he won that fight, he wouldn't get more than Joshua in the rematch, well, that's a poor excuse in my opinion. And like I said, the guy could have had a higher purse if he fought and beat Pulev. So it's really hard to feel for Dillian Whyte in regards to the Joshua situation. And on top of that, you know, Dillian could have fought Luis Ortiz. He could have fought Ortiz in a WBC eliminator. And, you know, that would have put him in position to fight Deontay Wilder down the line. He could have done that. But again, he didn't see it as a risk worth taking. You know, it is what it is. He had the opportunities to get in position to fight Joshua or Wilder, and he turned down both opportunities. So to argue that Dillian Whyte deserves a title shot after turning down 2 eliminators, in my opinion, it's a bit silly. I do get the argument that he's fought better competition than other heavyweights who have fought for the title recently. That's fair enough, but that's not always how boxing works, unfortunately. And as for Eddie Hearn treating Dillian Whyte badly and leaving him out in the cold, I mean, I think that is ridiculous, to be quite honest. I mean, since that defeat to Joshua, they've done a really good job rebuilding Dillian Whyte. He now fights regularly on Sky Sports pay-per-view, And after Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, this guy is arguably the third biggest name in British boxing. So to say Matchroom and Eddie Hearn have done this guy wrong, again, is a non-starter, in my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of Eddie Hearn, but, you know, he's done a really good job with Dillian Whyte. It is what it is. I don't think that's even disputable, to be honest. I mean, this was a guy who didn't really have an amateur background. You know, he served a drug ban in the past. He was very raw at the start of his career. The fact that this guy is a pay-per-view star is obviously testament to Dillian Whyte, but also the promotion, to be quite honest. And yeah, I just don't see this case that Dillian Whyte has been treated badly, or that, you know, he deserves this title shot more than anybody. I just don't see that being the case. Would I like to see Dillian Whyte fight the likes of Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, or even Anthony Joshua in a rematch down the line? Of course. But I'm not going to sit here and say, do you know what, this guy deserves everything in the world, when he's turned down fights that would get him to where he wants to be if he won. So, yeah, I don't think there's a case to say Dillian Whyte has been treated badly by Eddie Hearn, and I don't really think there's a case to say Dillian Whyte 100% deserves a title shot, to be honest. That's just how I feel about the situation. I just wanted to make a video on it. Share your thoughts below. Peace.